you think about how it was for my dad's generation, to some extent my generation, I'm in my 50s, is, go to school, work hard, maybe go to university, then that equips you for a career. And you do that career, during which time you contribute into the system, paying your taxes, which will pay for the education that you've had, and you're saving for your pension. So that contribution as a taxpayer then pays for your healthcare, and your savings, and to some extent your state contribution will pay for your pension. But you're not going to live that long after you finish work, because life expectancy was lower, and that's fundable. Now that whole social contract has collapsed. So yes, go to school, work hard. Yes, more of you go to university. But actually that degree is not worth so much anymore, even though you've incurred a whole load of debt to get it. Ernst & Young this week, who I think recruit about 25,000 graduates into their workforce, have announced that they're not going to filter by degree qualification anymore. They will look at competence, and they'll do some assessment around what you know. That's massively challenging to higher education. The notion of a career for life is pretty much over. I'm on my 4th career, I'm in my 50s. But for my kids in their 20s, they'll be dipping in and out stuff. And I see them, therefore, working, then dipping back into education, maybe occasionally, if they're unlucky, dipping into welfare, back out through education into work again, and dipping through their working life, in and out, and working well into their 70s, maybe 80s. And the notion of obviously the final salary pension has gone. So what kind of saving, what kind of pension arrangement is then going to sustain you for whenever you manage to be able to stop working and look after your care needs, given that your life expectancy is now probably going to get close to 100? Now that just explodes all of the assumptions about how we run government, how we run countries, how we run the state. But it is really challenging for education. Well, technology is now de-skilling brain as well as brawn, and it's, we talk about the hollowing out of the labour market, so that in essence it looks, in a very simplistic way, like work will be amongst servers and creators. So either you're in a service level job, and it's just all about your skills to be able to communicate, look after and care for people, and that's probably more likely to be at the lower end of the income and scale and skills levels. But those are much harder jobs for robots and technology to be able to take over. And then you've got the more creative, communicative jobs where you're creating new knowledge, creating new value, starting new businesses, doing new things at that other end, but not a huge amount in between. The adoption of technology initially for organisations creates internal efficiency, and that creates value and profit, and that normally involves taking out some people. And there's that horrible word disintermediation, but taking out people in the middle who are processing stuff, because technology can process for you, and you still got sort of front end of sales and distribution, and then you might have a sort of managerial end, but the more they can take out in the middle, the better. Then you have a phase around personalisation, where organisations will use the technology to start to harvest data, to start to understand individuals better, so that they can then tailor product to more meet the individual need of people. And then you have co-creation, which is where the sharing economy starts to come in, where you get into a whole new world of disintermediation that people never imagined before, where suddenly you're saying we can produce a service together with the consumer. There's some maths called blockchain behind the cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, and they are bottom-up, peer-to-peer trust networks that allow those currencies to exist and to work. And even the UK government is starting to embrace Bitcoin. Now, if that works, If peer-to-peer bottom-up trust rather than a central bank creating trust works for currencies, then it could work for identity, it could work for democracy, it could work for creating ways of connecting people up around the world and starting to influence and change things. To me, it's entirely logical that if we are going to embrace a future that is much more human, much more empathetic, much more integrated and interactive, and where value is created by new knowledge rather than the regurgitation of old knowledge, then schooling has to change. To me, it's non-negotiable.